It's time for Remodel Revolution. And now, an award-winning contractor with over 40 years experience. Here is Alex Guthrie.
Welcome to another episode of Remodel Revolution. I'm your host, Alex Guthrie. We are coming to you live from the world headquarters of Remodel Revolution, right here in Dallas, Texas, deep in the heart of the great state of Texas. We're so glad you could join us today. We're going to have a fantastic show. We have with us today the one and only Executive Officer of the Dallas Builders Association, Mr. Phil Crone. And in our second segment, we have a remodeling contractor. We're not sure. He claims that he is. I don't know if I believe the things he tells me. Bruce Graf of Graf Developments. I hope you just spit your coffee out. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Things have been absolutely crazy in the building industry in 2020 and even starting, of course, in 2021. It has been nutsy cuckoo, labor shortages, COVID, material shortages, material pricing going up, and nobody knows which end is up. We can't get a permit. It's crazy. And so I invited my good friend, Phil Crone, who is the executive officer of the Dallas Builders Association and a constant figure on the local news channels because he's just such a handsome, smart guy. And so welcome to the show, Phil. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, Alex. Yeah. Nutsy cuckoo is a great way to describe it.
It has been a wild, wild ride here, hasn't it?
Yeah, it sure has.
Yeah. And you're builders, so how many builders do you have in the Dallas Builder Association now?
We've got about 400 builder members and about 650 associates.
So that's a lot. That's a lot of people, and that's you. Of course, that gives you a great kind of your thumb on the button of what's going on around here. So tell us first of all, how is the health of the home building industry in North Texas right now?
Housing is strong. We've had a really good year, certainly an unprecedented year, all the cuckoo things you're referring to. It was a wild ride where we went from just trying to figure out, can we keep open? Can we keep building? Can we stay operational as an industry? It was right in the middle of all that stuff back in March. And then the response and how our members and how everybody in the industry responded has just been amazing. And I think this thing that we've gone through with the pandemic has just reinforced how important housing is. And we're seeing that in the numbers, and we're seeing that especially in this region.
Well, when you top it off with the mass migration of people to this area, and I think it's going to just continue to get stronger. You just have this sort of culmination of all of these things coming together at once that just made it really wacko around here. Mm-hmm. I expect, everybody sort of has been going along expecting it to all tank. Hasn't ever slowed down. It's even gotten stronger this year.
It hasn't slowed down. The momentum keeps building. And then everyone kind of thinks back to 12, 13 years ago, the Great Recession, try to draw parallels to that. All the underlying health figures of the housing industry in terms of demand versus supply, we should try to, if we can deliver them, and there are a lot of challenges there, build 52,000 homes in the area this year.
Incredible.
That would be on par with those years. But if you look at just what the demand is and everybody that's moving to this region and needs a place to call home, that's a good number. That's a strong number. We're not over our skis like we were back then.
Well, and it's a whole different set of challenges than it was in '08. I mean, it's just like apples and oranges. There's no comparison to it. The fact that we've really kind of overcome or adjusted, I think it's more of an adjustment that we've had to do in our industry with things like trade wars, where we were having problems getting materials. I don't know how that is now. I can't get a feel for anything. Seems like I don't really know anything until I order something. That's when I find out whether or not actually what it's going to cost and when I might get it. That's sort of where we're at right now. How are your builders getting, what are they having to deal with materials and things like that?
Yeah, those are some of the headwinds right now. And we're trying to tell our builders when they're working with clients, make sure that they have several different options on whatever selections they're looking for, because the materials that come out of these warehouses or are in the supply chain, it's only a COVID case or two from seeing several weeks of disruption.
One driver getting sick, or 5 people in a warehouse getting sick, or something like that.
You just have that chain that adds up, and it's difficult to overcome those. But it's almost like we're playing whack-a-mole on some of these materials. That it's just, it was a little bit of door locks, it's a little bit of light fixtures. It's been a whole lot of lumber.
Well, the pricing is the big problem right now, and I'm doing a remodel, and I also talked to our friend Donnie Mack, and a year ago, a piece of OSB was around $10, or really less than $10 a sheet, and now it's $30 a sheet if you're lucky, if you can even get it. That is, I don't, that's going to have an impact. It has to have an impact, because you don't bid jobs and there's a delay between bidding it, starting it, finishing it, and in that time frame of 6 or 8 months, the material costs have just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
What's causing this?
Try to summarize what probably could be a whole show and a whole segment just beating up on lumber and the big challenge that it is. But there are a lot of things, from the tariffs on Canadian lumber that have been a big factor ever since 2017, when they were imposed up to 25% for lumber tariffs. And then, those got reduced here a little bit recently. I'm hoping that with the new administration, those can be overcome. But that creates an artificial market, and it creates what I think is the biggest challenge right now is on the supply side. With all this demand that we've seen and just this amazing influx of people looking for housing, you would think those mills would be running 3 shifts a day just as much as they safely can, and they're not. And the reason they're not is because they don't have to compete with the Canadian market. They don't have to, at least to the extent they would without the tariffs. They don't have really the competition that they need to avoid some of the, I would say, price manipulation that's going on right now. And I know those are harsh words, but in a normal market, you would see them firing on all cylinders and delivering everything that the market needs. Yeah, it was a quick response back in the summer, but we're past the point now where they can use that as an excuse. So they need to step up and stand and deliver what we need.
Well, we've had several times in the last 20 years or so, I don't remember exact, but through the course of my career, where there's certain types of materials where they actually will create a shortage to drive the price up. The price never comes back down. So we all just have to make an adjustment. My concern, of course, is that you drive it up to a price where then your housing becomes unaffordable. Yeah. And the pricing housing is competing with the salaries of the people that buy it. I mean, it's kind of a simple formula. You got to make enough money to pay for the house. Yeah. And if you start driving those prices up to a point to where the mid-management person, that's the person buying that house, most of them, I guess, mid-management type people, if they can't afford to buy the house, then we're in trouble.
They really are, and the numbers bear that out, because 2010 versus 2020, looking over a decade, median home price back in 2010, $197,000. Median home price in 2020, about $327,000. And wages
For the same house.
For the same house, wages have only basically the median house, half are less expensive, half are more expensive in this market. And wages have only gone up by about half that much. And now with the pandemic, you've got a lot of haves and have-nots in terms of what sectors have done relatively well and the people who are struggling. We need to focus on those who are struggling, who don't have a place to call home and don't have an affordable place to sleep at night. These price impacts disproportionately impact them, and the lumber producers at the front end of that production chain are taking advantage of those people, and that needs to stop.
Yeah, it does need to stop, because it's going to end up being detrimental to them as well. I don't understand why they don't just see it, see it for what it is. But so, how's our labor looking now? So we've had obvious problems from COVID. We had labor shortages that were extreme in the beginning of last summer, and I guess during the summer somewhat. Are we getting any balance there with our labor?
We are a little bit. I haven't seen quite the numbers that just kind of bear out what the picture looks like post-pandemic versus pre-pandemic. I can tell you just from surveys of our members that the supply challenges and the permitting challenges have elevated above labor in terms of what they're worried about, but it just all contributes to the affordability concerns that we have. And I think it underscores the need to look at our trade schools, our community colleges, which our association has partnerships with, because you can't be a catering manager on Friday and be a construction manager on Monday. You need to get the training and you need to reorient those skills. And this is a great time to put our resources behind those programs because they can help meet the need. Yeah.
We are in sort of a transition labor-wise. It's been a real problem for people where you simply don't have enough people. And part of it was just that the demand being put on the contractors and the subcontractors, where I talked to one the other day and he said, well, I used to have 6 guys on a job and now I've got 2 guys on a job doing the same job because I don't have enough people, I can't find enough people, and I've got this massive demand for my business. And so it's interesting to see how this all unfolds. And then of course, you take the COVID thing and the people working out of home and things like that. It's a whole new world than it was a year ago.
There's a training component to it. There's, I think, a try to work more efficiently component to it, and the conversation that we'll start to have here soon with the administration and Congress. There's a immigration component with it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that we rely on that are on the job sites that need to have the opportunity to step confidently out of the shadows and into the workforce in a way that they can rely on and their families.
Well, and contribute. I mean, everybody
Absolutely.
has to contribute. Now we're going to have, I'm concerned that we're going to have another problem of a massive amount of people coming into the country competing with the people we already have, and not, and driving those kind of maybe not driving them down, but competing with those wages that they already have that really aren't enough. I mean, it's hard to survive with the wages you make in construction. I know it sounds crazy. People are like, how much are you paying them? Well, it costs a lot of money to live in a big city. It's expensive. Let's talk about this permitting issue in the city of Dallas. I know this is one of your most favorite things.
Yeah, I'm
it
looking
gets
for
you
my
on the
soapbox
news
to
all
step
the
on.
time. Yeah, right. Well, city of Dallas has done a major ball drop.
I've heard it described many ways. That's probably the most G-rated way.
And that's hard for me to do. And they have completely screwed up the permitting process, and now they're in, I guess, a new format now where they're doing third party, which I hope they can somehow work with the third party people. We'll see how that goes. Give us kind of a synopsis of what happened and where you think it's headed.
Sure. The quick synopsis is the city really, prior to March, was unique in the fact that you could walk in with a set of plans and leave with a permit in a matter of hours. Sometimes it would take you longer to park at the Oak Cliff Municipal Center than it did to actually get the permit. It's almost no exaggeration.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and they had a really, for all the challenges in Dallas on the development side, the permitting side was a real helpful thing at the end of it. So you go into this socially distant world that we all have to live in March and make those transitions. The city had piloted a program, online permitting, same software that a lot of other cities use. But the way that they rolled it out and the divergence from the best practices and all these other things created a perfect storm with the system and a department that just was not ready for prime time when it was time to make that transition. Every other city in the region, admirably to their credit, did it in a matter of days or a matter of weeks. And the city of Dallas has just not gotten there. We've seen permits, again, think of something that used to take a matter of hours. Permit delays have gone up to 15 weeks. Yeah. And they've been kind of bobbing around, maybe 11, 13 weeks, up to 15. Now they're down to 9, but it's still way longer than it needs to be.
And that affects on the back end of that affects a lot of parts of a project.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got financing involved, you've got scheduling involved, you have materials ordered, things it just completely screws up the whole process.
Yeah, same we were talking about with the materials, just that chain of events that's delayed, not to mention the interest carry and just all those lost costs that you're just sitting there waiting for the site to get going, all the workers that would have been employed on those jobs. The city alone, because of these delays, has basically removed anywhere from 600 to 800 homes that would otherwise have been built. 600 to 800 families
and
that
I'm
would have
reading
otherwise been
dollar figures of $240 million and some various revenues that they would get out of that.
I took the data off of Zonda Meyer's research and just kind of found the missing building permits. They're assigned a $450,000 price to those homes and multiplied it over everything that was missing. And it was at the low end around $250 million, at the high end around $380 million of tax base. It was just, I was getting puke emojis back from council members that I shared it with. And again, just what better way to describe it?
So let's talk about their new going forward attempt of third party, and now they, if I understood it right, there's 3 third-party companies?
There are 3 third-party contractors. They're initially working with 2 who collectively between them have 6 full-time and then I think 2 or 3 part-time plan reviewers that are jumping into the fray. It's a $5 million deal over 2 years, and they're just initially going to surge in and clear the queue. I hope the city gives them more than just 100 plans, because there are 400 that are parked there right now.
Wow.
But it's one of those things where this is a now or never moment, and it's a whatever it takes moment. Get these third parties into the fray, get them to clear the backlog, and then get the 9 to 15 weeks down to 2 to 3 weeks, and I think we'll be on par with other cities.
How are your projections for the going forward business in 2021? How are your builders feeling?
Cautiously optimistic about the Dallas thing, very optimistic about the overall market. I think we are going to have some really big challenges in terms of how do we keep pricing under control? Where do we find land? How do we replenish the lot supply? Some of these things from the unprecedented demand, the other material issues that we just talked about, those are challenges, but all the underlying demand, everything is looking really good, but we have to get those medium to lower wage jobs back online. We have to get through this pandemic, and we have to find a place for them to call home as well. This can't be single family housing, multifamily housing can't be a place for the privileged few, because you have so many societal problems that happen if you don't address that issue.
When your workers have to be able to live in town, and I'm going to have a discussion in just a little bit about that. I found some interesting information on that. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming in and visiting with us. It's a fascinating discussion, and I guess a discussion we'll continue to have for some time.
Absolutely. Always happy to come on and happy to see you and get some fly fishing tricks and tips as well.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, from the fly fishing boss. So we need to get you to go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. We're bringing you really great programming. We have fantastic guests. We are working really hard to get this out to you weekly, and we really hope that you'll subscribe and follow us on YouTube. Also, like us and follow us on Facebook. We have a lot of responses to these shows, and I love hearing from you. If you have any comments, any shows you want to see in the future. Also, you can follow us on Instagram, and all of this is Remodel Revolution. It's Remodel Revolution on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram. And then, if you really like podcasting, you'll really like this show. Go on your podcast site, and don't forget to watch Remodel Revolution on Texas Weather Tracker TV. Go to your favorite, let me go back to podcast. Go to your favorite podcast site and key in Remodel Revolution. We're there. We're on pretty much all of them. Go to Texas Weather Tracker TV on your smartphone or your smart TV. We're on Amazon, Android, Apple, and Roku TV Sundays at 1 and 3 p.m. Replay of the show. And it's really a lot of fun. So check out Texas Weather Tracker TV. I'll tell you what, William Cole, the weather guy there, he's the chief meteorologist. William is going to be on our show in the not too distant future. And he has got a fantastic program where you can go on there and you can find all different kinds of pages to open to get different information on the weather. So give that a shot, and we'll be right back. Imagine this, a totally customized, organized, and beautiful master closet. A home office that fits right into a perfect space. A pantry designed specifically for your storage needs. Imagine your home totally organized. It's time to call the design professionals at Closets by Design DFW and turn your dreams into a reality. With a design staff over 30 strong, Closets by Design works directly with you to create your dream space, and they build it locally, helping support the DFW community. Check them out at dallas.closetsbydesign.com or call them at 972-361-0010. Use the promo code RRV to find out about the amazing specials and discounts available. That's dallas.closetsbydesign.com or call them at 972-361-0010. And don't forget that promo code RRV, Closets by Design. You know, it's only a few short weeks until we'll be running our air conditioners all day and all night. Believe it or not, it may be a little cool outside, but we're never far away from our next hot week. So it might be time for you to get in line and make an appointment with Total Air and Heat to get a tune-up scheduled for your air conditioning system. My friends at Total Air and Heat are in Plano, Texas. You can call them at 972-881-0020 right now and get on their schedule for a tune-up. Don't wait, because the lines get long as soon as it gets hot. Total Air has been servicing the North Dallas, Plano, and Richardson areas for over 60 years. Steve and Justin Lawton, that's the second and third generation to run that company, sell and service Carrier brand heating and cooling systems with green speed intelligence technology. So give them a call, 972-881-0020, or contact them at totalair.com. Well, remodeling is making a sort of a resurgence in the North Texas area. I'm assuming, hopefully, it's doing it around the country as we sort of, we think we're kind of coming out of COVID, but we're not 100% sure we're coming out of COVID. But the bottom line is, in March and when all this started in early spring, people were not allowing us in their houses. They were canceling projects for good reason. And now we're sort of getting back on track with it. And so I decided that it would be time to talk to a friend of ours, a friend of the show, Bruce Graf with Graf Developments. He is a big time Dallas remodeling contractor. Mr. Graf, how are you this morning?
I am doing excellent, sir.
That's very good. That's very good.
Yeah, you can't tell. The good thing about doing these podcasts like this is you can't tell it, but I actually have my shirt tail untucked. So
that's okay. I'm not wearing pants.
okay, good.
Yes, he is, fortunately.
We have Phil Crone joining us in the studio today. I asked him to hang around because if Bruce tries to tell me something that's not right, Phil will correct him. So,
Or the two of us can correct Alex.
yeah,
either way.
right. Well,
How are
hey,
you,
that
Phil?
doesn't happen often. That doesn't happen often. So, Mr. Graff, how is your business going? Are you getting more phone calls than you were, say, a few months ago, or how's your
it's
business?
going well. It's just exactly what you described earlier. I am getting called. In fact, I had to turn down a big job yesterday. A designer contacted me and said, "I've got a job I really want you to look at." And I said, "I hate to do this, but I can't. I'm going to have to turn it down. Please remember me later." But I just simply don't have the manpower to do it. I am struggling right now with the manpower, and because I lost my two main guys because of the COVID thing, and they bought into the fear enough that they just basically, one of them retired and said, "I'm just going to go ahead and retire because I don't want to get out there in public." And the other one isn't old enough to retire. He just decided he's not getting out in the public. He's not leaving the house. And so that's it. I lost my two main guys. And so now I need to replace them. And so if you guys know of anybody, I need a seasoned carpenter. I need a well-seasoned guy that can help me watch over my jobs and get things done.
What I'll call you later. It just depends on the pay, and
Yeah, right.
I need some pretty good bennies. I can't just I can't just do this $10 an
I got
hour
to get
thing.
my business built back up
Yeah.
for that one. But yeah, no, I'm getting busy. I've got jobs coming, and I'm trying to not turn them down because we've all been there where we didn't have jobs coming.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
that makes you afraid to turn down work when it comes. Luckily, the type of jobs that we do, the level of work that we all do, once it goes into the pipeline for design, that kind of slows it down for us. It's in the designer's hands for a while, and that buys us some time. And that's kind of where I am on several jobs right now.
It's interesting because Phil and I were referring back to '08 and 06 and the pre years to the Great Recession or Depression, whatever you want to call it. Excuse me. And I could do 8 or 10 projects at a time, and was doing that many. We were really cranking them out. Right now, I'm with you, Bruce. I'm doing one right now,
Yeah.
and I'm going to look at another one, and that would be all I could do. You're right. There's a little bit of a fear factor because we don't feel like we have control over so much of our business right now.
Right. Yeah, and we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And all of a sudden, people start calling us and saying, "You know what? I'm giving it a second thought. Maybe I need to hold off." It's our job, Alex, and you guys. All of us that are self-employed, that have been contractors for years, we're pretty darn good at working through these problems and figuring things out on the fly, if you know what I mean. And in this case, it's help, getting helpers, getting tradesmen out there. Luckily, my subs are still intact. I still have all of my subcontractors. They're still good to go. They're still doing my work. It's my main guys that I need there doing the carpentry, the tear out, stuff like that. That's where I'm hurting right now.
Phil, what are your members, and I know Bruce is one of them, what are your members experiencing along this same line with the COVID and their like hourly type people?
You know, really similar to what Bruce just described, that the subcontractor base is intact, but at the same time, they're kind of on that fence of, do I hire a bunch of construction managers and try to expand to meet the demand that I think I see right now, not knowing what the trajectory for them, you know, I shared some good stuff for the market, but for them personally is going to be over the next few months or maybe the next couple of years. And so a lot of them will just default to, here's what I can handle myself. Here's what my name's on the company I can do just on my own, whether that's 3 or 4 homes a year, and they stay there, and that's the safe play. Others are more ambitious, but that's kind of the conversation I'm having when I'm
Well,
hearing
you
from
know,
people like
after the
Bruce.
recession, Bruce, I know I just kind of like pulled in all of my stuff, like Phil's saying, and took control. I had to just kind of get rid of everybody and say, okay, I'm just going to do what I can handle, what I can supervise, and what I can control. Is that sort of what you're doing, or being
Well,
kind
that's
of
kind of
forced
what
to
I've
do?
always done. Now there are certain things now that my guys would have been doing that my trade subs can step in and do a little bit more to help me out, to do some of the stuff that the other guys were doing. Some of this stuff I've gone back to doing myself. The things I have done all my life that I thought I'd reached a point where I didn't have to put on my work apron and my nail pouch and go back to work, and now I'm having to in order to get things to a point where I can let my tile setter, my electrician, my plumber have it, things like that. But the problem with that, and I'll tell you, I actually enjoy the hands-on because I grew up doing it, and I like getting back in there and doing it. And I know it's done right because I'm doing it. The problem with that is that if I'm on the job all day long working with my subs and all this, then I'm not out there working on my bids for the other jobs, and I'm not out there working on getting materials together and things like that. So that's why I need a guy that knows this stuff, so I can turn it back over, get a superintendent for my jobs now, so I can get back to doing the administrative part of it.
Well, and they're not as easy to find anymore as they used to be, because there's not as many people coming up. That's a job where you have to have a lot of experience. You have to come up through the ranks.
Oh yeah.
You have to understand the nuts and bolts. You really have to understand how to do it. Now, Phil and I have talked briefly about the trade schools and the trade school programs that the Dallas Builders Association is working with local community colleges with. Phil, are they able to produce that type of person in those programs?
As best they can with the time frame for those programs, and that's the advantage. Like Collin College, for example, the curriculum that by and large our association, our members, were able to contribute to is, here's what you need to know. Here is how you can be as ready as you can be in a 2 or now a 4-year degree. And they're a good candidate, but there's no substitute for experience on the job. They get a little bit of it in the summer, but they're much further along than a lot of different programs or a lot of different people that may be entering the industry.
Well, I've done 2 projects this year that are the result of me coming in and redoing, and one a super big redo of a poorly run project by inexperienced people. Bruce, I don't know if people are calling you to come fix things that other people did wrong. I'm hesitant to take those.
I haven't had any of that right now. It's just people that have gotten fed up living in their house, looking at it for 8 months to a year, and staring at the walls and saying, we need something to make us brighten it up in here and to make us feel good. But back to what Phil was saying, I actually just hired a young man from the Collin County College. I contacted them, and they put me in touch with a guy that they believed would be a good fit for me. And the main thing you have to do is you have to make sure that these guys, and I know that you guys have run through this. I've hired guys in the past that didn't know a lot, but I thought, I'm going to go ahead. I can teach you and bring you up, kind of be a mentor type situation, and bring you up and teach you, and you can go on and hopefully get to become seasoned eventually. And everything I taught them that day drained out in their pillow overnight. And the next day I have to reteach them all of it again. And the reality of it is that I'm not slamming people. Everybody is different. But some people just simply can't think the way we do and do what we do. It sounds like what we do is so easy, and it's just not. And if you know what I mean, some people just, their brain doesn't think this way. And that's the hard part, is finding people that you can teach and they get it. They understand exactly, this is why we're putting this stud here. This is why the soap niche is going to be this big, or whatever, so that they can think on their own. Hopefully I have found a young man that I can mentor. He's not going to be my seasoned guy. I still need a really good carpenter to run things, but this is a guy that I can still bring up through and teach him, and I think he's going to be good.
Well, so much of what you're talking about is seriously just experience. I mean, somebody didn't turn the phone off. Who's that? Anyway, okay, here's what I was going to say. So much of that for Bruce, for people like you and I, who grew up with a hammer in one hand and a tape measure in the other hand, and a bologna sandwich in our back pocket.
Yeah. And the broom, and your broom is attached to your belt loop, so you can drag it around.
That's right. That's right. And these are things that are just sort of embedded in our brain. We understand how things work. We built houses. I don't know about you, but I built houses where I did everything from the foundation through the shingles, and including the insulation, the sheetrock, the wiring.
I've done everything. Yeah. I used to do everything myself. I built the cabinets. I did the electrical, the plumbing, the tile, the painting, the demo, until I started getting busy and realized. And see, here's the thing: is you think that. My thought was, if I can do as much of this as possible myself, I can make a whole lot more money. And that never happened.
No, not anymore.
Eventually, I learned that I needed to let those other guys that were great at tile, let them do that. I'll go ahead and get the painter going, because while he's doing that, I can be doing this. And that's how I built my business on my own after I left. I grew up working for my dad. When I went out on my own, that's the school of hard knocks,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what we all learn eventually in business, is how to manage.
It's that whole adage of working in the business versus working on the business. And you've got to juggle it all.
That's right. So, what are your expectations for going forward in 2021, Mr. Graf? Are you just going to kind of maintain? I know you've got to deal with your help situation, but how are you feeling? Are you feeling like things are going to kind of stay steady for us? Or
yeah, I feel pretty good about it, because honestly, I would have expected by now, if things were going to go south, they would have. And because listen, we live in a really strange world today. I don't know if y'all picked up on that or not, but what is up is down, and what is left is right, and so on. It's just the weirdest thing in the world. But I've got people contacting me. People through all of this nonsense have made money and are willing to spend it.
Yeah.
And it's every day I will get a text, an email, or phone call from a designer or a homeowner saying, man, I want to talk to you. I've got a job. I need a big project. I need you to do. And it's not, let's come in and paint my bathroom. It's I need to do the bathroom, and I need to do 2 bathrooms and a kitchen or something like that. And I'm both excited and terrified at the same time when I see that, when I read that, because I know I'm excited. Oh, good. Business is still going. and I don't have anybody to help me with this.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. No, well, and some people would say that's a good problem to have, but it's a very frustrating problem to have. We really appreciate you coming on and spending time with us this morning. It's really
I can't believe
been
it's
fun.
over.
Huh?
This was like a great ride at the fair, and now I hate that it was so fast.
Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Yeah, that's it. Bruce Graf with Graf Developments. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It's really great talking to you and helping us with our regional remodelers report. Take care, my friend. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Adios.
Well, that's it for the show today. Before we leave, I want to talk to you about going on YouTube and subscribing and following us. Also, go to Facebook and like us and follow us. Instagram, and this is all under the Remodel Revolution show. Also, check out our podcast. It's on all the podcast sites. It's super, super fun and entertaining. I mean, you can listen to me all day. There's over 300 podcasts. Dig it, baby. And don't forget to watch us on Texas Weather Tracker TV on Roku, Android, Apple, and Amazon TV Sundays at 1 and 3. You get to see it all over again. Thank you, Phil Crone.
My
It's
pleasure.
been so much fun. I appreciate you staying for the whole hour. It's been fun.
See, I can't get enough Alex either.
Until next week, this is Alex Guthrie signing off. Have a good week, everybody.
The views and opinions of this program are for educational and entertainment purposes only and are not intended to replace the recommendations of a hired professional. You can catch Remodel Revolution anytime. Follow the show on the website, remodelrevolutionradio.com, or on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, using the handle @Remodel Revolution Radio. You can always listen to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and TuneIn, and watch the show anytime on YouTube.